Alright, so I think that I've made a video before talking about how reliable are turbo vehicles. And for the most part, they're very reliable. They drive like normal cars until you get on them, get in boost, and then you've got the added power from the turbo. But sometimes when things do happen and go wrong with these things, we'll go over just now what happened with this one. So we dynoed this truck in Little Red the same day. I think we dynoed this one first because it was already down at Michael's. So we dynoed it. I think it made 642, and I really don't remember all the specifics and whatnot. I think this one was on 15 pounds or something. This is a LQ9, so this is a flat top 6.0 Gen 4 engine with 317 heads on it. It had the Stage 2 high lift truck cam in it, the Trailblazer intake, VS75 on it, 4-inch exhaust dumped at the axle. It's got an AGP intercooler. I don't remember what injectors this one has. I know it's about a 450 in tank, and he drove it around after that. We drove it to lunch before we put Little Red on the dyno. We drove it to lunch, truck ran great, everything did fine. And then we dynoed Little Red, it made 674 or something. And then I drove Little Red down there, and he was the owner of the truck at the time was supposed to come get this one or whatever. So I'm on the way back with Little Red, and then Michael called and he was like, hey, something's up with this white truck. He thinks it's blown up, and I'm like, well, it was running fine before. We drove it to lunch, it dynoed fine and everything. So, what gives? So he had it towed up here. I pulled it on the rack, checked out the bottom end, tried to look everything over best I could. Had a little bit of noise, sounded like lifters. So the guy took it back, and I guess he didn't have the money and time to really fix it, and then anyway, it doesn't matter. So I ended up trading the quadristeer for this one back. So if anybody used to watch the channel or still does, this is Brownie. So this was a 4-wheel drive truck that I got. I took the 4.3 out of it, put it in a Blazer, and then that paid for the Escalade that I got. So I took everything from the Escalade. This was turbo all-wheel drive. The 4L60 lasted maybe 2 days, and then I went 2-wheel drive, and then my buddy bought it for me. We lowered it, or he wanted it lower, so it's C-notched in the rear. It already had 2-inch drop spindles up front and the lowering shackle in the back, so we did a spring under, C-notched it, and then we did drop keys to get it. Well, I think it's still up on the rack a little bit. Anyway, lower. Not my preference, anyway. So, where was I? So I ended up back with the truck and thought it was a lifter. So, I bought a set of lifters, bought a new set of LS9 head gaskets and everything for it. And I had a couple people posted they were looking for turbo trucks. So I had, thrown out, this as an option. But I hadn't really put it for sale yet because I hadn't had time to fix it because customers and stuff and life. So, and wasn't really eager to tear into it again. So anyway, fast forward, a couple people were interested in the truck, and I was like, had a opportunity to get on it. So put it in here yesterday, started tearing into it. Got the heads off, and then I noticed a couple of the valve stems of the intake valves were like pitted real bad, and then the bottom side of the rocker looked real, not really galled up, but it was like, I'll show you. But anyway, so I found that, and then you know, spinning over, looking everything over, and then lo and behold, number 7 part of the piston was gone. So I was like, oh, good grief. So, you know, went ahead and threw it on the rack, got it in there, dropped the pan, pulled the rod and piston out, had another piston, so cleaned up the cylinder, checked the gaps, put another put another piston in it, and had changed out the intake valves that were pitted, and then lapped them in and everything. Did the LS9 head gaskets, put the new lifters in and everything. Just now got it all back together, and it sounds great, nice and smooth. Amazing oil pressure, and a lot quieter except for those sirens. So anyway, let's come over here and look at the Carnage. Been busy, done a couple AC jobs, but here's our piston. So this is number 7, lucky number 7. If you know anything about pump gas and boost, you know about number 7. So crushed the ring glands here, broke the top of it off there. These pieces were actually still in it. Here's one of them that was in it. So, and the rings were actually still good, and it didn't break the rings. So this is what can and will happen on pump gas if you're not too careful. And the crazy thing is the thing still ran fine, other than it was a little bit noisy. But you look at the tip of this rocker here, you can see the focus. You can see how the end of the rocker's beat up and like worn out, like it was worn into the valve. Then you can see the tip of that stem where it's like worn and pitted, and then this one was worn down pretty good, almost to the top of the keeper. I don't know how well you can see that, but I hadn't seen that before, and it's interesting it was both on the intake. I talked to Michael about it, and he said that he typically sees it on rec port heads, and typically it is on the intakes. So anyway, got all that changed out, truck's back together. It runs so much better. Now, you know, I'll be posting it for sale. I might take it back down to Michael and check the tune over, because on the end of another video I talked about the problem I was having, the AC compressor and all not coming on, and how if you use a relay and use the green and white trigger wire off the ECU to trigger the relay to turn the fans on when the AC's on, it steals the current from it, and then it won't let it get the 12-volt signal, and then nothing works. So I got that fixed now. So now with AC on, it probably needs a little more adjustment with the idle airflow. It probably needs a little more idle airflow, because what happens is when it's running, you know, he had it idled pretty low. You know, I like them idled as low as you can get them. And when the AC compressor would kick on, you know, it'd pull the engine down enough to where the ECU would cut the compressor off to keep the engine running. So, you know, it's just a little cleanup job, so nothing major. Another thing I found was the brake booster hose had a big hole in it. Probably about that long of a hole. I don't know where that came from, so I'm sure that was certainly affecting a lot of things. Idle, and I mean, we could have been losing some boost from that. So, but anyway, that's just, you know, that unfortunately that is part of it. If you run these things hard and then you run on pump gas and everything, that is one of the dangers of a boosted setup. You know, and I've got number 7 on quite a few. Well, not really quite a few. I've done it 1 or 2 other times. Maybe the Caprice. It was a L77 in the Caprice, and it was single turbo. And I got number 7, just identical to this piston over here on top of the ring gland. I drove the car home and pulled the motor out, honed it, shoved another piston back in it, and sent it. And I mean, it did fine, still running to this day as far as I know. And I bent 2 rods in Clifford because of overboost. But I think, and then this one, of course, this technically, this isn't my fault. So at least I wasn't behind the wheel when it happened. So, but anyways, huge burden off my shoulders. Go ahead and get this thing in here and get it back together. And you know, like I say, I talked to Michael. I don't know if he knew it was LQ9. Maybe he had a little more aggressive timing in it, thinking it was an LQ4 or something. But I mean, it's 10-to-1 motor, and the red truck's 10.5-to-1, I think. So, and also I talked to the guy with the little red, and he said that his got number 7 as well. So, you know, it is, you know, a danger if you're gonna run pump gas. You know, it's better to run a little more boost and pull more timing out of it. And, you know, there's also water meth injection and stuff like that you can do. But I don't know, I've never messed with the water meth injection. I just, you know, I would rather have it where I don't have to deal with a second thing. Because, you know, if the meth tank's empty or something and then you forget and then it get into boost and they're out of meth, and then you can have the same result. So E85 is the way to go if you got it. You know, we all saw the Caprice made 967 on it, no problem. And had we not hit the 2.5 bar limit, then we, you know, probably would have, I know we would have made over 1,000, but, you know, again, it goes back to at what point's enough. I mean, for a street car, I mean, I'm happy with 967 at the tires, you know. I mean, you're not going to hook that on the street anyway. It's just, it's nice to drive around and feel it pull when you want to feel it pull and all. So, but just be careful out there, running pump gas and 15 pounds of boost and 15 degrees of timing. Probably need to run a little less timing apparently. And maybe that's the way to go, is run a little more boost and then a little less timing. So, but anyway, that's it for now. I'm glad I got this thing back together, and lucky I saw number 7 was hurt, because otherwise, you know, I just happened to see that corner of the piston, you know, and then when I was looking everything over, and I thought I was done, but like I say, whenever I saw that there was another piston in my box of spare pistons, and that's why I have a box of spare rods and pistons, is because when you run the pump gas SBE life, this is the kind of stuff you can encounter. So anyway, that's it for now.